Hey Plant Taxers, thanks for joining me out here in the sun. At least that's where I am right now. We're going to be talking about the species Toxicodendron diversilobum. This is known as poison oak. That species name kind of makes sense. Toxic, this is a poisonous plant, or toxic, if it touches your skin, it could leave a rash. Dendron, that kind of means woody or tree. And then diversilobum has to do with the fact that their leaves come in many, many diverse kind of shapes. So let's get to talking about it. Notice there's two words. Again, this is a species that you need to know. You don't need to know any genus or family traits, but you need to know that it's in the family Anacardiaceae. And one of their most distinguishing features are their leaves. They are always going to have leaves of three. Have you heard this little poem, leaves of three, leave them be? Well, it's actually not really right, because those are leaflets. So leaflets of three, leave them be. These are trifoliolate leaves, or in other words, once ternately compound leaves. They're sometimes going to have margins like what you see here, sort of kind of crenate. Sometimes they're a little more serrate looking. Sometimes they're really lobed on their margins. Other times they're entire. Really, again, diversilobum, that specific epithet. Okay, they tend to go through really spectacular color changes throughout this season, but those oils that are on their leaves that cause rashes will last all season long. And in fact, they'll get on your clothes, and if you leave your clothes somewhere, or your tent somewhere all season, or all winter or something, the next spring, you open it up, those oils will still be there. The oils, they get on your dog, you pet your dog, they get everywhere. They're in your car. So you can avoid it. The best thing to do is avoid it. To be able to recognize it. And I know I've just been describing that it's highly variable, but it does at least always have those trifoliolate leaves. Okay. You can kind of see in this picture, see in the background here, these stems right here and right here, and even this one, they tend to have these kind of elongate stems, not always, but sometimes they're really elongate and then top heavy, and the wind will just blow them all around and it'll just whack you in the face out of nowhere sometimes. So what happens if the oils get on you is you've got some time, you've got maybe 4 or 6 hours, depending on the person, to get those off of you before they actually make it into your pores. And if that does happen, don't freak out or anything. Just go home, take a cold shower. If you take a warm shower, then it'll open up your pores. So you have to start with cold soap, and then you're good to go. At least for that time being. Now, it's really good to be able to recognize this plant, because we cannot, as people in the world, we can't just count on officials and science to tell us everything to be careful about, right? We need to depend on ourselves to be able to identify these things and stop ourselves and small children and dogs from getting into these plants. Notice the way that it's growing on this tree. Sometimes they'll use some other plant for their support, and they're really kind of viney like that. But even when they are viney, they still end up with a pretty heavy-duty woody stem, as you can see in that picture. Oh, notice the picture on the right here, those leaves. First of all, they're really shiny. They're just covered in that oil. And second of all, they've kind of got entire leaf margins. Again, variation. This picture might not look like much. That's the problem with poison oak. Sometimes it doesn't look like much because it is deciduous. And so in the wintertime, they're just naked stems. Or in late fall, early spring, they're just these naked stems, stemmy stems. And those stems, they've got oils on them. So, kind of scary. But it's fine. Here are the flowers and the fruits. I'm sure as botanists you were just wondering about them. I'm not going to require you to know anything about them. They do tend to have unisexual flowers and berry-like fruits. Very cool. Deer tend to eat this plant quite a bit, the leaves, the fruits, and deer are, in fact, most mammals are not affected in terms of the rash that we get. They're not affected like we are because they have hair all over their body. We are very, very naked mammals relative to all the other ones. Okay. So, yeah, again, I've worked a lot of field jobs where I'm just covered in poison oak all day, and I'm one of the lucky ones where I don't react too badly to it, but I'm still very careful always in the field, because I know people around me are more susceptible to it than I am, and you can avoid it. And you can also use this stuff called Technu. You can kind of rub it on your skin before or after exposure. And yeah, just do the cold water thing. Wash your clothes with a tiny drop of dish soap as well and on cold. And you can still enjoy nature, even though there's poison oak all over Northern California. So I think that's all I've got to say about poison oak. I'll see you in the next video.